Hi everyone, thank you for purchasing the rental property bookkeeping system. My name is Jessie and I am a CPA with over 15 years of financial reporting experience. I built this template specifically for landlords and real estate investors who want a complete financial system without the cost or complexity of property management software. In this video, I will walk you through every single tab, starting with the setup tabs, then the transaction log, all the dashboards, account reconciliations, and the balance sheet. I will also show you some of the more unique features like the capital improvement tracker, security deposit tracking, and the expense allocation feature. Before we dive in, I also recommend reviewing the README tab at the start of your template. It includes detailed written instructions for every section we cover here and is a great reference as you get started. You can also check out the FAQ tab, which covers the most commonly asked questions. If you run into anything, it might already be answered there. And if not, you can always send me a message directly through Etsy and I will get back to you. One quick note before we begin. This template uses protected cells to prevent formulas from being accidentally overwritten. In Excel, protections are fully enforced and will prevent any accidental changes. You can unprotect individual sheets from the review menu if needed. In Google Sheets, you will see a warning if you attempt to edit a protected cell. If that warning appears, simply click Cancel and enter data only in the designated white input cells. With that, let's begin with the Input tab. This is where your setup begins, and you only need to do this once. Start with your portfolio name. This is whatever you want to call your rental portfolio. I have entered Jessie's rental portfolio as my example. We will set up your individual rental properties in the next tab shortly. Next, enter your currency symbol. You can copy and paste your preferred symbol directly into the cell. I have used the $sign. Feel free to replace it with whatever currency you use. Then we enter your start year and start month. The start year is the first year you begin using this template. Your start month defaults to January. You only need to change it if your fiscal year differs from the calendar year. For example, if your fiscal year runs May to April, you would enter May as your start month. You will see a red helper note right there that explains exactly how the fiscal year works if you need more guidance. For this demonstration, I will keep it as a calendar year starting January 2025. Next, select the name for your profit and loss statement from the drop-down menu. There are 4 options to choose from. And finally, you will notice the helper notes toggle. Helper notes appear throughout the workbook with this little pencil and paper symbol. They are there to give you quick guidance on each section and tell you which cells are input cells. If you want a cleaner view for printing or presentations, you can hide all of them at once. Check the box in Google Sheets or type Yes in Excel. You can turn them back on anytime and they will always be there when you need them. Now let's move to section 1.2, Account Setup. This is where you tell the template where your money lives. You can add up to 10 accounts, any accounts where you deposit rental income or pay expenses from. Bank accounts, credit cards, or savings accounts, anything you want to track cash flow for. Enter the account name and your opening balance as of your template start date. So in my example, since I started in January 2025, I enter my balances as of January 1st, 2025. Bank accounts and assets are entered as positive values. Credit cards and loans are entered as negative values. These accounts flow directly into your account reconciliation tabs, which I will demonstrate later in the video. Now let's talk about the chart of accounts setup. This is one of the most powerful features of the template, and it works very similarly to professional accounting software. The great news is this template already comes pre-populated with rental property specific income and expense categories, so you may not need to change much here at all. But let me walk you through how it works. In section 1.3, you define your main categories. You have up to 15 income categories and 15 expense categories. Keep these broad and high level, things like rental income, mortgage and financing, property tax, repairs, and maintenance. These are your top-line reporting categories that show on your dashboards and profit and loss. You will also notice a third column here for capital improvements. This is unique to the rental property template, and I will come back to this in just a moment. In section 1.4, you assign your subcategories. You can have up to 75 subcategories in total, and each main category must have at least one assigned. Subcategories give you the detailed tracking, and they automatically roll up into their main category for all your reporting. Let me show you an example. Here, I will click the drop-down in section 1.4, and you can see all my main income categories have populated automatically from section 1.3. I will select rental income and now type other rental income as my subcategory. You can see I already have monthly rent, short-term rental income, and corporate rental income set up. All 4 of these will now roll up into the single rental income line on your profit and loss and dashboards. This allows your reports to stay clean at the top level while all the detail is captured underneath. On the right side, we have expenses which work the same way, so I won't go through it in detail. A few important rules before we move on. Number 1, any main categories from section 1.3 will not flow into the transaction log until section 1.4 is completed. If your main categories do not have any subcategories, you can simply repeat the main category name as the subcategory. That's completely fine. So, for example, I will select Other Property Income from the drop-down menu and then type Other Property Income as the subcategory as well. Number 2, once you start entering transactions, do not rename your categories or subcategories as it will break the links throughout the template. There is an error check in the transaction log that catches accidental changes, and I will show you that shortly. Number 3, subcategory names must be unique across the entire workbook. If you enter a duplicate, both cells will highlight and you will need to rename one. Number 4, you can always add new categories and subcategories at any time, even after you have started entering transactions, as long as you are within the limit of 15 main categories and 75 subcategories. Now let's go back to capital improvements. This is unique to this template. Capital improvements, things like roof replacements, major renovations, new appliances, are treated differently from regular expenses for tax purposes. In many jurisdictions, they are not immediately deductible and should not appear on your profit and loss. This template handles that correctly. Capital improvements are tracked in a completely separate section, and they will not impact your net income. They flow into your cash flow section instead. I will show you exactly how this looks when we get to the profit and loss. You have up to 15 capital improvement categories, and there are no subcategories for capital improvements, just the main category level. Now let's quickly go over the Chart of Accounts tab. This is automatically generated from your Inputs tab. As you update categories and subcategories, they will appear here and remain organized. Use this as a clean reference for your structure. As indicated by the helper note in the top left corner, there are no inputs in this tab. Now let's set up your properties and tenants. This tab has a gear icon, along with the Inputs tab and Budget tab, because these are your 3 setup tabs. You will set them up first and then not need to visit them as frequently. This tab is mostly record keeping. It does not affect your financial reports, with one exception. The property name is critical because it flows directly into the transaction log as a drop-down selection. So choose your property names carefully and do not change them once you start entering transactions. Section 1 is your property register. Add up to 10 properties. For each one, enter the property name, address, purchase price, and current estimated value. The address and values are for your own record keeping and do not flow anywhere else. The columns on the right side auto-populate from your tenant listing in Section 2 and automatically pulls your current tenant information. Do not edit this and only make the edits down in Section 2. Section 2 is your tenant listing. Every current and historical tenant gets a row here. The most important field is active or inactive. Active means the tenant is currently in the property. Inactive means the tenancy has ended. And keeping those inactive rows is how you build your full tenant history without cluttering your active view. If all tenant rows for a property are inactive, the property automatically shows as vacant in the register above. For example, Oakwood Bungalow does not have any tenants inputted in Section 2, so the current tenant will be flagged as vacant. Let's go through another example. Here I have Elm Street Duplex showing multiple active tenants. If I scroll down, I can see 2 rows are set to active for the same property. One of them should be inactive because that tenant gave notice and moved out. I will change it to inactive and you can see the warning clears immediately. For each tenant, fill in the property name from the drop-down, tenant name, tenant status, which includes current, month-to-month, notice given, or moved out. Then we have lease start and end date. End date can be left blank for open or month-to-month leases. Monthly rent, security deposit amount, and security deposit status, which can also be selected from the drop-down menu, and any notes. One important reminder, this tab is record keeping only. Rent payments and security deposits still need to be recorded in the transaction log to show up in your financial reports. I will show you exactly how to do that shortly. The Budget tab is your last setup tab, and it is a nice feature. You can set monthly net income targets for up to 10 years. Here is a cool little detail. Whichever year you input in this cell, the The dates in this row will automatically update, and the corresponding year in the table will be highlighted. So when you are ready to set your 2026 budget, just input 2026 and the months update accordingly. Enter your net income targets as positive numbers and losses as negative numbers. This is optional, but I recommend using it. It flows into your dashboards and gives you a budget versus actual comparison each month. You do not need to fill in all 10 years up front. Just populate the current year and add future years when you get there. Now we're at the heart of the template, the transaction log. This is the most important tab and where everything begins. Every transaction you enter here will automatically flow into your profit and loss, all your dashboards, account reconciliations, and balance sheet subledgers. You only enter data in one place and everything updates automatically. That's the whole point of this template. Before I walk through the fields, a few important things to know. The gray cells are formula cells, so do not edit them. If you see a warning pop up when trying to edit, just click cancel. Also, and this is important, do not insert or delete rows. The template has hidden formula columns that power the dropdowns and smart prompts. If you insert a row, those formulas will not carry through. The template is built with 10,000 rows, so you will never run out of space. If you miss a transaction for a previous month, just add it below your current entries. There are ways to view transactions in order. I will show you with the Transaction History tab shortly. There are 4 mandatory fields: date, property, transaction type, and amount. Column O on the far right is your Smart Prompt column. It will tell you exactly what fields are required based on whichever transaction type you select. Keep an eye on this as you go. Let's start with the date. It must be a valid date. If it is not formatted correctly, a pop-up will appear right away. Next is your property field. Select the property this transaction relates to from the drop-down. These options come directly from your property and tenant tracker, so make sure that is set up first. You will also notice a multiple option in the drop-down. I will explain that when we get to the allocation feature. Now, transaction type. This is the most important field in the entire template. There are 8 transaction types. The first 2 are income and expense, which directly affect your profit and loss. The remaining 6 are cash flow transaction types only and do not impact your net income. Let me show you income and expense first, and then we will move through the cash flow types. I will go ahead and select income and choose the property it relates to. I will enter $5,000 as my amount. You will also notice a sales tax rate field. This is optional, and for most residential rental properties you will not need it. If you do not use it, I recommend hiding those columns to keep things clean. For this demonstration, I will go ahead and input a sales tax rate to show the full functionality. The 2 grayed out cells beside it will calculate automatically. No changes needed there. Description is optional and just for your own record keeping. Now you will see the smart prompt has appeared in column O. It is telling me I need to select a to account and a category and subcategory. The to account is where this income gets deposited. I will select checking account. Then I will select rental income as my category and monthly rent as my subcategory. Before I press enter, you will notice the warning counter at the top is showing 1 issue. You must always clear this before reviewing any dashboards or reports. It is your completeness check. Once I press enter, you will see both the smart prompt and the warning counter disappear. Transaction complete. Now let me quickly show you an expense for $2,500. Very similar process. The only difference is you select a from account instead of a to account since you are withdrawing funds. The corresponding expense categories from your Inputs tab will populate in the drop-down. I will select my from account and assign my category and subcategory. And you're done! Now let's go through a few of the cash flow transaction types. These are transfers, other deposits, other withdrawals, capital improvements, and security deposits received and returned. None of these impact your net income, but they all affect your cash flow and need to be recorded. Let me show you other withdrawal as an example since other deposit works the same way. I will select other withdrawal and enter $3,000. The smart prompt tells me I only need to select a from account for this transaction type. This represents whatever account the cash is being withdrawn from. I will select checking account. This could be any owner transaction or withdrawal that you do not want hitting your profit and loss. Smart prompt has cleared, which indicates the transaction is complete. Now a transfer. This is for moving money between your own accounts, and it is the only transaction type where you do not need to select a property. I will enter $1,000 to pay off my credit card. The smart prompt tells me I need both a from account and a to account. I will select checking account as the from and credit card as the to, which indicates I am using my checking account to pay off my credit card. Again, the smart prompt has cleared and transaction is complete. I will come back to capital improvements and security deposits in a moment, as those have a few more nuances worth covering separately. Before we move into the dashboards, let me show you the allocation feature. This is one of my personal favorites, and it is incredibly useful for shared expenses across multiple properties. Say you have a $10,000 advertising expense that applies to 3 properties. Instead of splitting it manually, you select multiple as the property. I will select multiple and fill in the rest of the record similar to a regular expense. I have entered $10,000 and chose advertising and vacancy as the category and photography as my subcategory. Now if I scroll to the right, you will see the allocation columns have appeared, and the warning counter is telling me to enter an allocation percentage split. This will only appear when I select multiple as the property. I will go ahead and enter 33.33% for each of the 3 properties. Once they add up to exactly 100%, the warning clears automatically. That $10,000 is now split across 3 properties at your specified percentages, and there is no manual math required. Now let's go ahead and look at all of these transactions flowing through the profit and loss and dashboards. Here's the profit and loss statement. You can select any property from the drop-down menu or choose consolidated for your full portfolio view. Enter the year and everything populates automatically. You'll notice a little plus sign on the left side. The statement defaults to showing your first 7 categories in a condensed view. If you have more than 7, then go ahead and click the plus to expand. A warning will appear, but this is one of the few times you can click OK. Income and expenses are organized by main category across all 12 months. You will notice that subcategories do not show here and only the main category totals appear. That's completely by design to keep the statement clean and readable. You can always drill into your subcategory detail using the Dashboards and Transaction History tab, which we will get to shortly. Now let's scroll below the net income line. This is where the rental property template goes beyond a standard bookkeeping system. You will see a cash flow summary showing all transactions that affect your cash but don't impact your profit and loss, including capital improvements, security deposits, and other cash movements. Net cash flow at the bottom gives you the complete picture. Here's why this matters. A property can look profitable on paper but be cash flow negative if you had a large capital improvement that year. This template shows you both numbers, so you always know exactly where you stand. Now let me show you the transactions we just entered flowing through. We inputted a $5,000 income transaction and a $2,500 expense transaction earlier, and here they are in the June 2026 column. We also inputted that $10,000 advertising expense allocation split across 3 properties. If I select the first property, you can see the $3,333 allocated share right here. And when I switch to consolidated view, you can see the full $10,000 transaction. You will also notice our other withdrawal cash entry appearing below the net income line in the cash flow summary, exactly where it belongs. So everything is flowing through correctly, and your net income and net cash flow are both telling you the full story. Now let's move into the monthly dashboard. This is where your data really comes to life. All you need to do is select a property or consolidated view, choose a month, and enter a year. Everything populates automatically from there. At the top, you've got your key metrics showing total income, total expenses, and net income all compared automatically to the same month last year. No manual prior year lookups needed at all. To the right, you've got your monthly savings progress showing how you're tracking against your budget target for the month. To the left is your income and expense summary with prior year comparison in a visual chart. And in the middle, you've got all your main categories comparing current year to last year at a glance. Now if you scroll down, you'll see your top 5 income and expense charts and the trailing 15-month summary chart. Since I've got May 2026 selected, you can instantly see the last 15 months going all the way back to March 2025. This is really useful for spotting seasonal trends, growth patterns, and any months that need attention. And at the very bottom is your full subcategory detail ranked from largest to smallest. So for example, you'll see repairs and maintenance broken down into 2 subcategories, which are general repairs and cleaning. The total of those 2 subcategories is $6,259, and that will always agree to your main category total at the top. That's the beauty of the roll-up structure we set up in the Inputs tab earlier. Now let's take a quick look at the annual dashboard. It works almost exactly the same way as the monthly dashboard. Just select a property and enter a year, and it shows all 12 months side by side with prior year comparison. It's perfect for your year-end review. I won't go through every chart in detail since the structure is identical to the monthly view, but just present it at a full year level instead of a single month. Now the 5-year dashboard is your long game view. Just enter the most recent year you want to see, and it'll automatically pull the prior 4 years. So if I enter 2026, you instantly see 2022 through 2026 in one view. If I enter 2025, you get 2021 through 2025. Simple as that. You'll see category level results, income and expense allocation charts, and your overall performance trends across the full 5-year period. Your best year for revenue and your best year for net income are also highlighted automatically, so you can see at a glance where your portfolio peaked. This dashboard becomes incredibly powerful as you keep using the template over multiple years and your data builds up. You'll really start to see the story of your portfolio growth over time. And just like the P&L, remember to click the plus sign on the left if you've got more than 7 categories, so everything expands and populates correctly. Now for our last dashboard, which is the property dashboard. All you need to do is enter a year and all 10 properties appear side by side, showing income, expenses, net income, and cash flow for each one, all in a single view. No more toggling between tabs or separate files to compare your properties. At the top, you've got your key portfolio metrics, showing your total number of properties, active properties, consolidated income, net income, and cash flows across your entire portfolio for the year. And to the right, you'll see your top performing properties for both income and net income, as well as your bottom performers highlighted automatically. Towards the bottom, you've got your visual charts showing income versus expenses across all properties, your top 5 by income, and your top 5 by expenses. These charts make it really easy to see at a glance which properties are driving your results and which ones might need some attention. Once you've got a full year of data populated in this template, this dashboard becomes your absolute go-to view for understanding how your entire portfolio is performing. It's one of those views that just makes you feel really in control of your investments. Now let's skip transaction history for a second and jump into the account reconciliations. We'll come back to transaction history shortly. This template has 2 reconciliation options, so let's walk through both. The first is the Account Reconciliation tab. This one works just like a real accounting system. Instead of relying on month-end dates, your reconciliation is based on your actual bank or credit card statement dates. So if your bank statement ends on the 25th, the template will automatically pull exactly the right transactions for that period. No guessing, no manual adjustments. Let's go through an example. I'll select June 2026 as the month I want to reconcile, scroll to the far right where the input cells are, select Checking Account from the drop-down, enter my statement start and end date of June 25th, 2026, and enter my statement balance of $26,669 straight from my bank statement. Now if I scroll back left, you can see all the transactions have automatically populated for that exact period. Opening balance, income, expenses, and all cash transactions are right there. The ending balance recalculates automatically, and because it agrees exactly to my statement balance, it shows reconciled. That's it! You just repeat the same steps for any other accounts you want to reconcile. One extra feature worth knowing is the tolerable range. If you don't want to investigate tiny differences, you can set a threshold. So say I enter $500 as my tolerable range, and then input $27,000 as my statement balance. Even though it doesn't agree exactly, it still shows reconciled because the variance is within my $500 threshold. Super useful for avoiding unnecessary investigation of small rounding differences. At the bottom, you've also got a current view, which shows your real-time account balances as of today. No manual input needed there. And to the left are 2 visual charts showing your inflows versus outflows and your current account balances plus your key summary metrics at the top. Now let's look at option 2, which is the Accounts Custom tab. This one's much simpler. Just enter a custom date range and all transactions within that period populate automatically with a calculated ending balance. No statement required, no month selection needed. I'll enter May 25th, 2026 to June 24th, 2026, and you can see the same transactions populate and the ending balance matches exactly to what we saw in the previous tab. So which one's right for you? If you want a formal reconciliation process that ties directly to your bank statements, go with the Account Reconciliation tab. If you just want a flexible way to monitor cash activity across any period, the Accounts Custom tab is your go-to. You can use one, both, or neither, and just hide whichever one you're not using to keep things clean. Before we jump into the balance sheet, let's go back into the transaction log and input a couple more transactions so we've got some data to work with. First, I'll input a capital improvement. I'll enter $10,000 and select bathroom renovation as the category. If you recall from the Inputs tab, there's no subcategory for capital improvements, so the Smart Prompt just asks for a From account and a category. I'll select Checking Account and Bathroom Renovation, and that's all we need. Next, I'll input a security deposit. Our Oakwood property just got a new tenant and we received $2,000 as a security deposit. We don't want this hitting our P&L because this is cash we're holding on behalf of the tenant. The smart prompt only asks for a to account, which is where the funds got deposited. I'll select checking account and we're done. Now let's head over to the balance sheet roll forward tab. At the top is your security deposit schedule. You'll see all 10 properties listed here with input cells for your date range. I'll enter June 1st, 2026 to June 30th, 2026, and you can see the $2,000 has appeared here. This keeps a running track of all deposits held by property across any period. If you ever return a deposit, just record it in the transaction log and it'll automatically reduce the balance here. Super useful for always knowing exactly what you owe back to your tenants. Next is the capital improvement schedule. Same setup with all 10 properties listed. I'll select bathroom renovation and enter the same date range, and you can see the $10,000 right there. I can also switch to all capital improvements to get a consolidated view across every category. Now here's a handy feature. Say before you started using this template, you'd already spent $2,000 on bathroom renovations for this property. You can enter that as an opening balance at the bottom. I'll select the property, bathroom renovation as the category, and enter the amount. Now, if I scroll back up, you can see the balance has updated to $12,000. Your total capital improvement cost base is always accurate and up to date. Now let's look at the balance sheet itself. This is a manual monthly input. At the end of each month, once everything's recorded, go ahead and enter your closing balances for all your balance sheet accounts. The template's not fully automated here, but the good news is you've got everything you need already calculated in the supporting tabs. Pull your bank and credit card balances from the Account Reconciliation tab, your security deposit payable from the Security Deposit Schedule, and your capital improvements from the Capital Improvement Schedule. At the bottom is your balance check indicator. It confirms your balance sheet is balanced when total assets equal total liabilities plus equity. Always check this before you close your books at month end. And since this is a multi-year template, the balance sheet doesn't roll forward automatically. At year end, just export a copy for your records, clear the white input cells, and enter your opening balances to start fresh. Now let's wrap up this tutorial with the sales tax reporting and transaction history tabs. The sales tax tab is optional and only relevant if your properties are subject to sales tax. If you do use it, just make sure to enter the applicable rate in the transaction log when recording transactions, and this tab will automatically summarize your tax collected, tax paid, and net position for the year. As always, check with your accountant to confirm your specific obligations. And if sales tax doesn't apply to you, just go ahead and hide this tab. Last but definitely not least is the transaction history tab. This one works just like a general ledger in professional accounting software. You'll see income on the left, expenses on the right, and capital improvements on the far right. Select any main category and all transactions from the beginning populate instantly. Then drill into a subcategory to narrow it down and add a year filter to see only a specific period. So, for example, I'll select repairs and maintenance, and I can see every transaction including all subcategories. Then I will select cleaning as my subcategory, and now I'm only seeing cleaning transactions. Remove the filter and I'm back to all repairs and maintenance. This is incredibly useful at tax time when you need to pull every expense in a specific category for the year in seconds. It's also a much better option than filtering directly in the transaction log, so always use this tab when you want to view transactions in order. And that's a wrap on the full rental property bookkeeping system walkthrough. I know that was a lot, but I promise once you're set up, it becomes a really simple routine. Record your transactions as they come in, check your dashboards monthly, and by year end, your books are already organized exactly the way your accountant needs them. If you run into anything at all, don't hesitate to reach out. I know this template inside and out, and I'm always happy to jump directly into your file and help you troubleshoot. And if this template is saving you time and giving you clarity on your portfolio, a quick review on Etsy would mean the world to a small shop like mine. It genuinely helps other investors discover this template. Thank you again for your purchase, and I hope this template helped you gain clarity and confidence in your finances.